James McIntyre was arrested. He's pled not guilty. And there are witnesses that are claiming that there was no physical assault. To the contrary, it was just a simple handshake. So to talk to us a little bit about this and more of Nancy Mace, the disgrace, always a pleasure to be joined by Midas Touch's very own Ron Filipkowski, who's been covering this story. Ron, thank you so much for joining us again. How are you?
Yes, I'm the expert on the Nancy Mace handshake scandal.
Ron, it really is crazy.
I got to tell you, I was just, how there's all these fake Trump screenshots that go around. People put them out and then people believe they're real. And one that's going around right now is about where Trump says Barron is a better guitar player than Bruce Springsteen. And it's totally fake. So, you read the screenshot and it's like Barron's name is misspelled. So I thought about like replying to the guy and going, it should have been obvious that this is a fake tweet because Trump misspelled Barron's name. But then I thought about it and I'm like, I don't know that he necessarily knows how to spell Barron's name.
That's true. You're probably right about that. Ron, as if
I don't mean to get sidetracked there, buddy.
No, that's okay. I mean, these are the times that we're living in, Ron. We're going to see this stuff every day. If it didn't get bad enough for Nancy Mace on this whole trans women in bathrooms nonsense and her tweeting 1,000 times about it, it seems like every day it's something new with her.
Yeah.
And I thought something was very strange about this story. Number one, there was no video evidence. Number two, nobody corroborated her story. Nobody said that she was assaulted. Number three, she didn't have any visible marks on her or anything. And she shows up in the chambers yesterday wearing this arm sling. And you've been covering this story. And this guy, James McIntyre, to my understanding, who was arrested, has received awards for his work, foster care work, and he doesn't have a criminal record. Very strange. And you've been covering this story, Ron. What can you tell us about it?
Well, when a member of Congress goes to speak at an event, and that's what she was doing, she was speaking at this foster care event, they don't go by themselves. They go with staff, security, the whole deal.
Right.
So you would think that one person on her staff or security or whoever would back up, come out and say, yes, I saw this and this is what happened, corroborate her. But not one has done that. In fact, what did happen is Nancy Mace's former communications director, who used to work for Nancy Mace in Congress, put out this statement. I'll read it to you on Twitter. This is the same woman who told staff, myself included, during January 6th, that she wanted to get punched in the face by a rioter so she could get on TV. She's full of shit, and her prop of a sling is a pathetic ploy for attention. That's Nancy Mace's own former communications director.
Wow.
So then Nancy Mace went after me again today, and she said that I should face the women in my life because I'm making light of this issue. If you take like her word, like her best case scenario, what she told the cops is that he shook her hand and wouldn't let go right away. Like he just held on to her hand. That's her version. Now, the other witnesses, there's like multiple witnesses who dispute that. They said it was a normal handshake. And, the other, so that's number one. So to come in an arm sling, and this is especially like a couple days after Trump was like arm wrestling Macron, and was yanking his hand around, to try and show what a tough guy he was. But now the handshakes are supposed to be like an assault. So that was number one, and then the other thing that really tips it off is this, like Mace, got her whole news cycle thing going with the trans bathroom thing. And then, that dies down and she hadn't gotten any media attention for like 3 days in a row. And for her, that's like a crack addict going through withdrawals, who's like, or a meth addict who's been out for 3 days and the dealer drives by, and it's like, you start chasing up. I mean, that she obviously was like looking for something to get herself back on TV. And of course, what is she doing today? I think though, even like Fox and Newsmax is getting tired of her because even they're not giving her as many interviews on this nonsense. But she was on like Benny Johnson's podcast telling her story today, who was the Russian paid asset.
Right. I called her the Jussie Smollett 2.0
Yeah,
female
I
version.
did too.
Yeah, we
I
both
called
think
her
alike.
Jessie Mace. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really and what's really tragic about this, Ron, just like Jussie Smollett, is that the real victims, whether it be the real victim of a sexual assault or the real victim of an attack that has political ramifications, is it takes away from the real victims. Now, my question is this. I believe she made this up. You believe she made this up. There was no physical assault. It's a bunch of nonsense. I think she should be held to account, but what can be done? I mean, if you
Well,
file a fake police report,
that's a crime. Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
And I think it's a serious crime. So, Ron, what can be done about this? You have witnesses. Elliot Hinkle is one of them. I think there was another trans woman that was a witness as well that said this didn't happen. It was just a regular handshake. As you eloquently pointed out, there's nobody on her staff that's taking her side on this. What can be done about this, Ron?
Yeah, that can. I mean, I was a criminal lawyer for 29 years and handled many cases where people were charged with making a false police report. And how this usually happens is, look, you have to look at it from the cops' perspective. They weren't there, they didn't see it, right? No police saw it. So in that situation, an officer comes up and you have one person says this happened, the other. Now the officer has a choice. They can decide, there's just not enough here. That's number one. Number two, they can just write it up and send it to the prosecutor and say, this is what these people said. This is what you decide if there should be an arrest. You decide if you're going to charge somebody, but we're not sure, so we're not going to make an arrest. But in this particular case, since it involved a member of Congress, they decided to make an arrest. And they decided to make an arrest based solely on her word. And here's the other part too. We always look in these kind of cases for when was the outcry. We call it the outcry. When was the report made? In other words, like when this happened, did she scream and get on the phone and call 911 and call the cops and say, don't you go anywhere? Oh, no. Oh, no. Everybody left. Everybody left. She left. Her staff left. Everybody left. And then like 20 minutes later, she calls the cops. So clearly this was like a situation where she maybe thought about it and was like, oh, because what happened is the trans person, he wasn't even a trans person. Okay. The other person was the witness, but this is just a guy. He's not trans. The person who was arrested. And what he says is like, what I believe happened is he shook her hand and he said, you really need to, respect trans people's rights. That he made that statement. And I believe that she walked away from there and she got pissed and she got aggravated that this guy would come up to her and say that to her.
Right.
So she decided to create this assault story, which is backed up by nobody, to teach this guy a lesson. How dare you come up to me and say this to me, a member of Congress? I'm going to show you. And she even tweeted that. Like she tweeted F around and find out. That's what she tweeted. So what happens with these filing false police reports is they're always after the fact. Once the cops sort of dig into it, prosecutors start digging into it, and they make the determination that this is BS and they think that's when they will then charge the alleged victim with making a false report. So it always happens a few weeks later. But in this particular case, considering she's a member of Congress, it's going to be a long shot.
Do you think James McIntyre will have the ability and have an opportunity to file a defamation suit against her? I mean, his name is in the news now.
Yeah. In fact, I think McIntyre would have a very good case, but, members of Congress have immunity. And I would think that for things that they say in Congress, they don't have immunity for everything. They don't have immunity for crimes they commit. So I wouldn't think that they would have immunity for this under the speech and debate clause. But considering it was at sort of a congressional event, maybe she could make that argument.
Yeah, I hope he does. I just think she is a disgrace of a human being. And I'm glad you've been covering this as strong as you have. I want to get your take on Donald Trump kind of downplaying the fact that he might not be able to lower the price of eggs. You talked a little bit about this on social media today. It's interesting. He makes all these promises, which you've covered extensively, and now he kind of backpedals on it. What are your thoughts on this before he even gets into office?
Yeah, he's backpedaling on a lot. You know, he said he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, and now he's saying, well, you know, there's a lot of moving parts, could be very difficult. You know, see, he's already hedging his bets on a lot of things, including this. So the only thing that we can do is sort of catalog all of these things, call him out, show all the broken promises. Of course, he hasn't taken office yet, so you can't do too much yet. But once he takes office and these promises start getting broken, here's what I think he's going to do. I think he's going to keep all the horrible promises and he's going to break all the good ones. Like, you know, all the ones where like, I'm going to, you know, end war. I'm going to cut the budget. You know, I'm going to buy a third. I'm going to balance the budget. All the good ones he's going to break. All the terrible ones, like I'm going to deport everybody and lock everybody up and go after the media. I think he'll keep those promises.
You're probably right. I think that makes a lot of sense. The bad stuff he'll keep, the good stuff, like wanting to actually help us when it comes to the economy or lowering prices. I think prices are going to get jacked up. Ron, I hope you stay on this Nancy Mace stuff. I know you will. You guys are doing a great job. If she's responding to you, you're doing something right.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Please keep it up.
She always responds to me.
Yeah, well, because you hold her to account. And that's why I have so much respect for you and what you guys do at Midas Touch. Please keep up the great work, my friend. I love it. Maybe we'll catch up with you next week. Ron Filipkowski, thank you so much for your time.